You're in a dream. You cannot wake, sleepwalking alone no more. Your battle alone you could never win. In this place I have always been. Last breath stolen from her chest. May she rest, may she rest. A battle to forgive the promise it never was. Lost in the shadows of a shattered heart. So long heartfelt song, screaming to be heard. I know only dreams given to death. Last breath stolen from her chest. May she rest. Alone I give in to the passions for my sins. I needed you most when I let you go. So long, heartfelt song, now you rest, now you rest. Screaming to be heard, alone you can never win. In this place I have always been.
So you do want to hear it. Okay, here it goes. I'll just hold it. Michael. What? I fought him in the past. I grew strong enough to last. I did not want to see. He showed me. He showed me. I fell into a hole. I gave up control. When I could no longer win, I took him in. I took him in. Michael saved me from my own hell, and I love him more than I can tell. Okay, I was requested to say a funny poem, and I have every emotion, I thought, except humor, which is kind of funny. So I wrote one called The Cosmic Comic for you, and I'm David. What's your name?
Stacy.
Okay, Stacy. This is from me to you. Okay. The Cosmic Comic. You told me not to see. I looked. You told me not to taste. I took. You said I would be free. I believed. You said that I am me, and I could not see.
What happened to David? I once suffered from the symptoms of a disease known as bipolar, and also known as schizophrenia. My symptoms are not rare among mental illnesses. I suffered from a grandiose delusion that I thought I was a god, and that I was responsible for all the things that are wrong in this world. This symptom was magnified when I would use alcohol or drugs. It eventually almost destroyed my mind, leaving me in anxiety, fear, regret, and terror. And by the grace of God and through His undeserved kindness, I am here to tell my story. I have always held a deep-rooted idea in my heart about God. I know Him in my heart by His name, and His name to me is love. It has been one weird trip, but I am glad to be back on my feet and walking again. I feel as though I have been blessed just for being alive and making it this far. I am so excited to see what joys lay hidden to be discovered in whatever remaining days I have left. I want to thank you, God, for loving me when I did not know how to love myself. Thank you, God, and I thank all of you who have helped me to wake up and enjoy every moment of precious existence. My journey in life has been a wonderful expression of God's love. At my darkest moments in life, He has led me through in such a beautiful way. I would love to share it with others, so I will start here. In 1999, I had a vision that I could not put into words at that time, but I am now more able to put it into words. I was very sad and felt stuck in the cycle of regret for the past and fear for the future. I was a light show programmer at a bar, and I programmed the computer at this bar to run all the sub-programs I created within it without the need for me to be there. The computer controlled intelligent lights called scanners, and I made a program to run all my different programs within it. Work was going good, but then they added more scanners, so I set up a new style light show and began to design a very precise lighting setup. When the result was done, I walked away, believing it would stay on without me. Currently, I had quit eating on my 21st birthday, because I thought if I ate, I would be taking it away from someone else. I was still drinking though at this time, off and on. I lasted 15 days without eating, and then on the 16th day, when I woke up after I had fallen asleep, thinking that I did not need to be here anymore, but not in a suicidal way, mind you, but nonetheless I was very sad. When I woke up, I felt all the hunger inside me like a fire that can never be quenched. It pulled me right out of bed, and the pains all through my body, and I tried to figure out a way to fix the problem. Thoughts were racing through my head so fast, and I could not keep up. I started to behave quite odd, even more odd than before. That is when I looked at my TV and I turned it on and watched the snow on the screen. I began to think that if I can harness the vacuum of space power within the TV, I would be able to create a new heaven where none had to suffer like the way I was suffering. I placed 4 speakers in an exact pattern, forming a magnetic loop around the TV. In amongst these speakers, I placed a glass of water. But it was missing something. I let my mind wander until I had a desire to go to the nearby woods and gather some earth and a root of a tree. While in the woods, I thought in my head of a world without suffering, where none would die, and I asked God what the meaning of life was. And in my mind I heard a voice saying, it was speed. So I gathered what appeared to be a small portion of a root of a tree and headed back to my experiment. I placed the root in the water and placed the cup in amongst the speakers in the TV. I laid down waiting. I had the radio playing while the TV surrounded by speakers and the water in front of it. I listened to the radio, and it was a religious show on speaking about the 10 Commandments. While I was lying still on the bed, a thought entered my mind for a moment. The thought was that I believed I was God. It was immediately followed by a family member entering my room. He said that I was sick, and took the glass and dumped it down the drain. It was so painful to witness. He told me that my mother was coming to get me, and that she was outside. When I got to the door, there were 4 police officers there to take me to the hospital. I thought that my mother was at the hospital, and that I had done something terrible. When the police took me into the psychiatric ward, I was in a room with 1 police officer, and he had the same name as my father had, and I thought he was my father. I was really losing the battle at this point, and I kept on looking at him, funny, thinking he looked different, and I still thought it was my father. I was in a room with him, and there was a table in the middle of the floor, and it was funny shaped. It looked like a solid black hole, wide on the top and bottom, but skinny in the middle. He looked at me and waited. I looked at the table, and flipped it upside down, and moved it on the floor like a chess piece, and I moved it in a knight's position. I was then brought to another hospital by the police, and when I got there, they placed me on a bed with the number 6 on it. They closed the curtains around my bed, so I could not see. While lying on the bed, I began to get scared, so I started clapping my hands unpredictably. The more scared I became, the more I could hear people around me, and they were suffering, and were not visible. But I could see them, and they were sucking the life out of the living. I tried to see the floor, and I could see a mop and a bucket moving around, cleaning, but there was no one moving it that I could see. I eventually could not stand being in that bed with the curtain around me, so I left, and saw a bed with no one on it, with the number 10 at the top. I climbed on top of this bed, and immediately the police and nurses came, trying to get me down, and I was afraid. They were trying to help me, but I was afraid, and then there was a standoff and silence until one of the officers' microphones went off. I reached for it without thinking, and grabbed hold of it and squeezed. I said into the microphone, "You can be anything you want to be." Then I said, while looking at the number 10 on top of the wall where the bed was, "It's not supposed to be apart." And I put my finger inside a hole I made on my other fingers. They immediately began to force me and slam me to the bed and tie me up, and I thought that I was the devil at this point, because I tried to be God. I even cried for Michael the Archangel to come and get me. Then, in the midst of this fear and guilt and shame, one female officer asked me what I meant when I said, "You can be anything you want." And I told her she could be a flower. Then I lost all fight, and instantly lost all fear, and surrendered myself. At that moment, I left my body, and then the hospital, and then Earth, and traveled through the countless galaxies in space, until there was only darkness, and the whole of what is known as the physical universe was gone. After looking at the universe as it shrunk in the distance as I continued to travel, the universes in all its size and power and capacity were but mere tiny specks in a dark hole of space. I was then surrounded by light of unlimited, unending love that washed my soul. I had no form, and could not tell where the light began and where it ended. It was all around me, and I was a part of it. The healing powers in that place suggested to me that it was what happens when we die. We just go there and get reprogrammed and come back to Earth. It seemed to me that I was there for what felt like forever and ever. Actually, it felt like I was there for thousands of years, even though it was only one day. And when I woke up, I was at peace with myself again. What was going on inside my mind at the time was that I thought that I was a free electron inside a TV tube flying around and around in a vacuum of space, surrounded by other electrons traveling through the nursery of life. In doing what I did with my TV, I thought I created a way for everyone to become God, but looking back, I know that I was sick, and it was not real. Thank God I am getting better. I believe that God is love, and that throughout my life He has shown me that it is okay to love myself and my enemies also, and I have been given a wonderful gift of experiencing God, and from what I found, I hold inside me a love that can never die. The message from the light. There is something from the bottom of my heart and all the way up, and it is growing. Love conquers all. Love never leaves. Love is all around. It is not above you. It is not below you. It is a part of you, and you are a part of it. Love is compassion. Love is forgiveness. Love is eternal. Love is perfected and then reborn and found to never leave you when you take it in and let it shine. So love being alive for what it's worth. Love grows from mistakes and then heals itself in the light, and all is reborn to the truth, love, and be loved. You cannot force someone against their will to love, or to do or be anything different than the individuals they are meant to be. My advice is to change yourself, and do not force someone to do something that they do not want to do, and do not force them to be someone they are not. Let those you love grow, and give them love and support. It is up to them to figure out who they are and why they are here. Just love them, nurture them, and enjoy the time spent with them, and keep them in your heart always. Be the change you want to see in the world, and let that be a seed of hope and faith, and allow yourself to be a good gardener over it, and watch it grow before your eyes. We can save the world one person at a time, and that one person starts within yourself. And when that tree grabs root, it lends its branches to all those around. It can grow and help those who need its healing in their lives. I believe that when someone dies, they are no longer in any pain, but are taken back to the light which eagerly awaits them, and there they are healed from all the pain this world has inflicted upon them. They will then know everything will be okay, for they are loved, and they will know what love is.